This is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 251, originally aired January 28th, 2016. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. We're going to spend some time on a great little process that you can use to kind of wrap up the year and let go of the things, the memories, the lessons, the wounds that we picked up over the course of the year that aren't serving us anymore, as a good way of just kind of letting it go and moving on as we move forward. Before we do that, just two quick reminders. First of all, if you have not done so already, we have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. Lots of people, as they move into the new year, are working towards New Year's resolutions, making new action, taking new steps towards moving forward. And oftentimes those fail very quickly because we don't set ourselves up for success. This 10-part guide is a great way to start out the year so that you are taking action in a way that is most useful and most helpful. It's absolutely free. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button. If you happen to be listening to today's podcast in the website, all you need to do is go up in the right-hand column. You'll see a big blue button at the top of it. Click on that, and we will get you that 10-part guide absolutely free. The other reminder before we begin is the Tapping Q&A podcast is sponsored by Pain Relief Miracle. Pain Relief Miracle is an all-natural spray that can be used for scrapes, cuts, bruises, burns, joint aches, arthritis. It was created by Jason Laird. Jason Laird is a Chinese medicine practitioner. He was looking to create something to help his mother for her arthritis and ended up making something that works for so many more things. I was home last week for Christmas, and right before I'd gotten home, my mother had left one of her knives on the stove and did not realize she had done that. So she went to pick it up and ended up severely burning the fingertips on all of her fingers and had these huge blisters on it. And so she was using PRM on her fingertips a couple of times a day. And over the course of the week, the blisters never popped. With a burn, we don't want blisters popping. Instead, you get to see them healing and changing and transforming. And every day she just kept showing them to me. She's like, this PRM is so amazing. I love it. Look what it's doing to my fingers. You can get a 33% discount off of your first order of PRM for Tapping Q&A listeners only. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/pain and you will receive 33% off of your first order. It is in my medicine cabinet. I have an extra bottle in my suitcase that travels with me all the time. My family uses it. You should have it in your medicine cabinet as well. tappingqa.com/pain. Today, what I wanted to do was just spend a little time talking about reflecting on and giving us a way of moving forward. If at the beginning of 2016, you would have described to me everything that was going to happen this year in world politics, the number of amazing artists who we lost to death, to the things that happened in my own personal life. If the first week of January, you would have explained 2016 to me, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. That there was no possible way that we could have had the year that we had. And at this point, as we close down the year and in the darkness of December, as we're having the super short days, even though the days are still getting longer, there's still lots and lots of darkness. This was an appropriate time, an appropriate time for us to just kind of reflect and release. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to teach you a little tool that you can use for lots of things. It's called basket tapping. But what we're going to do is we're just going to apply it to the end of the year as a way of letting go. So before I teach it to you, just a couple of thoughts. First of all, this is something that I would do at least once a day for the next week or so, to just really give yourself the opportunity to release and let go a number of things. The thing I love about this process is that we don't have to get into all of the details and know all of the specifics of the things that we're tapping for in order to make a difference with it. The second is, unlike many of the tap-along audios that I provide here, I'm not going to give any instruction about how to do the tapping and when to move your fingers or anything like that. Basically, when doing a process like this, which is much more visualization than saying phrases, like the old Yellow Pages commercials, let your fingers do the walking. tap 5 or 6 times on a point, move on to the next point, move on to the next point. At the beginning, it might feel a little odd because you're thinking about the tapping and you're thinking about the process. Once you start tapping, your fingers are just going to start moving along as if they're powered on their own. At least that's what I found in my own experience. And if for some reason while you're doing this process, you find yourself resting only on a single tapping point, that's okay. What's most important is what works for you. If thinking about moving from tapping point to tapping point is really distracting to you, then I would just choose one point, the side of the hand, the collarbone, some point that works for you, and just stay there and just keep tapping there as you go through this process. If you're going to do that, what you might do is from day to day experiment and choosing a different point to be tapping on. So let's just begin. So to begin with, what I want you to do is, as a little instruction, I always like to start here. Tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. Take another nice big deep breath. And if you're not closing your eyes, I'd like you to close your eyes. Obviously, this is not a tapping that I want you to do while you're driving or doing something that requires your attention. And as we move forward, all you're going to do is just move from tapping point to tapping point, like I said before, in the way that makes the most sense for you. Take one more big deep breath. And what I want you to do is I want you to simply imagine in front of you a large container of some sort. It could be a large basket, a giant bowl. It could be a big chest. It could be a large hole in the ground, but just a vessel of some sort. And just appreciate the fact that this vessel is here to serve us, to hold on to the things that we no longer want, and to help them to be transformed. And as you imagine this large vessel, what I want you to see yourself doing is I want you to see yourself start filling this vessel up with all of the things from the last year that are no longer necessary. And as you do this, you don't have to know what those things are. They might show up as a pile of papers that you're dropping in. They might show up as large glass black balls. They might be objects of all sorts of shapes and sizes. And your subconscious mind knows exactly what all of these things are. First, I just want you to see yourself dumping all of the thoughts that you had over the course of the last year that served you in the moment but no longer serve you now. Thoughts that were useful in that moment, even if they didn't feel useful. Your system thought they were useful in the moment. And just drop them into the vessel. And you might see them going in as a giant bunch, or one at a time you're dropping them in. As you continue to add things to the vessel, at any point, if the vessel gets so full it can't hold anything else, the vessel is going to just continue to grow and transform in shape and size to contain everything that we need. The vessel is responsive in that way. And again, just keep seeing yourself peeling off and releasing and letting go of these thoughts. As you continue to add thoughts, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to see yourself adding beliefs. Beliefs that you realized were no longer useful this year. They might have been useful at one point, but because of the experiences of the year, because of the relationships you had this year, because of the actions you took this year, they're just no longer useful. And that's not to say that they're bad, and that's not to say that they're wrong. They served a purpose at one point, and that's why we clung to those beliefs. But again, just shed those beliefs. See them dropping into the vessel. Again, they could be lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes, but just one at a time being placed into the vessel, or in bunches being dropped into the vessel. Again, our vessel continues to change and transform in shape and size as necessary to accommodate what we keep placing into it. In addition to the thoughts and beliefs that we need to let go of, There are experiences that your system knows that it needs to let go of. Again, we don't have to know the details of it. They might show up as single black balls that we're just letting go of. The system knows exactly what they are. But those moments that hurt us, those moments that tore us down, those moments that led us to believe that we are not as good as we thought we were, or not as whole as we thought we were, just see yourself releasing and letting go of all of these experiences that created injury, that created wound. And again, as you continue to add them to the vessel just keeps transforming in shape and size. It might even transform in what it is made out of to accommodate the new things that are being placed into it. And again, just appreciate the fact that we have this vessel that is willing to hold all of these things. Finally, add to the basket anything that just needs to be let go of. It could be a belief, it could be an energy, it could be an experience, it could be something that you picked up subconsciously that you didn't know you picked up. Your system knows fully well what those things are that you no longer need, and just give yourself permission to let go of those. And if there's any resistance of your system letting go of it, just remind the system that if we need to pick these things up in the future, because they may be useful again in the future, know that we can do exactly that. And again, remember, you don't need to know what these things are. You don't need to know the details. The system knows it can let them go. And just trust the system to let them go. And the vessel continues to change and transform in shape and space to hold all of these things. Take a nice big deep breath. And now the vessel is full of all of these things that the system has decided to let go. And even though some of these things are painful, and even though some of these things caused us harm, just appreciate the fact that all of these things existed. It doesn't mean we want them to happen again. It doesn't mean that we wanted things to happen in that way, but we can appreciate the fact that they existed. We can appreciate the fact that we had these experiences, and we can appreciate the fact that all of those things crafted this moment, which is the opportunity for us to become who we need to be next. Now, what I'd like you to do is I would just like you to imagine from above pouring down into our vessel that contains all of these things that are ready to be let go of. Just imagine a pure white light pouring into them. It is the light of hope and love and purity and goodness. And as the light hits all of the objects and all of the things that are in our basket, those things start to transform. Some of those things will simply evaporate under this light. Some of those things will slowly smolder away, burning off what is unuseful. While other things in the basket might actually transform. They might transform into something that is new and useful and good. And just give your system permission to take as much time as it needs to let this transformation to happen. Allowing light to pour down, moving into and through, around, transforming, releasing, letting go. And if you need to spend more time having light pouring into this vessel to continue this transformation process, feel free to pause the audio and take as long as you want, as long as you need having that transformation process happen. Once you've reached the point where that transformation is complete, I want you to imagine yourself walking closer to the vessel and noticing what is inside. If there's something inside of that vessel that needs more light, again, just hit pause. Continue to pour that pure light into that space. If there's something in that vessel that has been transformed into something that is useful, give yourself permission to pick that up. If there are things that are remaining in the vessel that need to be disposed of, that the light did not destroy it or transform it into something that was no longer present, but into something that needs to be let go of again, give yourself permission to take the vessel and just dump it out into a place where you're releasing what is inside to the place it needs to go, so it can move on to be useful somewhere else, because it is no longer useful here. Take a nice big deep breath. And now just take a few moments and offer up appreciation and gratitude to your system. The fact that our system knows what is no longer necessary, knows that it can release and let go without having to know details, knows what we are made for. That our healing process is simply letting go of those things that are unuseful because we are whole. And we are just returning to that wholeness when we let go in this way. Appreciate who you are. Appreciate the system can do this. Appreciate that you have carved out even just a few minutes to do this work. Also appreciate the fact that a process like this doesn't have to do it all. And doesn't have to do it all at once. It's a process of gentle releasing. It's a process of letting go. And that today was just one more step in that releasing and letting go. And just continue to give yourself permission to trust the process. And trust that this will continue in a way that is useful and helpful as you move forward. Take another nice big deep breath for me. And one final deep breath. Now, there are a number of things to note as we do this process. Firstly, even though we spent close to 12 minutes doing that, I moved kind of quickly through that process, just so you get the opportunity to see what it's like. As you go back and return to this process to do it on your own or with the use of this audio, give yourself permission to hit pause at any point and to spend as long as you need to in any of the stages where you're letting go of things or any of the stages where you're allowing the transformation to happen. The second thing to note is as you went through this, it is possible that even though we gave ourselves permission not to know the details and not to know the specifics, that there were details and specifics that came up. If you noticed things, memories, moments, beliefs, thoughts that really need to be addressed, after doing this process, just jot them down and give yourself permission to come back and use some of your other tapping tools and other tapping approaches to go after something in a very specific way. That's appropriate, and that's a great use of the process. Finally, this is a process that I find most helpful if you return to it multiple times. So over the course of the next week, do it 5 or 6 times. Just find a little time in the morning or in the evening and just continue to let it go and release. Know that in most circumstances, this is something that's going to be really relaxing. But I have also found that sometimes when we do a process like this, because we have released so much that is unuseful, you find yourself really energized. So don't be surprised. So if you do this one night before you go to bed and it keeps you up for a little bit, know that that's okay. That is a common reaction. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough that it's something to be noted. Let me know how this process works for you. It's just called basket tapping. You can use it for anything. You can use it for a particular relationship. You can use it like we did today for a particular time period. You can use it for just letting your subconscious mind dump out what it needs to dump out. I just thought it would be really useful as we close down just a unbelievable 2016. But like I said, you can use this anytime, anywhere to approach something that you don't want to get into all of the nitty-gritty of. If you know someone in your life who could use a process like this, feel free to pass it along. It's absolutely free. Please be our ambassador. The more people that you pass this along to, the more transformation that those people have, the better the world that we are going to be living in is going to be. Because for us to make a great world, it's really about us transforming ourselves and individuals making a choice to be different, to be whole, to be more. You can check out our whole archives at tappingqandapodcast.com. Even though this is episode 251, we now have over 300 audios that are there, absolutely free of charge. Go back, dig into the archive. If you want to hear from someone in change work, we've probably interviewed them. If there's a topic you're needing help with, we've probably covered it. Just dive into that archive, tappingqandapodcast.com. You can also download the Tapping Q&A app there. In addition to having access to every single audio on the website, I'm in the process of populating it with all of the tapping scripts from those tap-along audios. So if you click on the text section, you will have tapping scripts that you'll have access to wherever you go, absolutely free of charge. tappingqandapodcast.com. Make sure you check out the Pain Relief Miracle discount that we have, 33% off your first order. Just go to tappingqanda.com/pain. I want to thank Jason for doing that. Oftentimes in podcasts, people say, for my listeners only. And if you listen to 6 podcasts, you'll hear the same ad 6 different places. Jason has only set this discount up for the listeners of the Tapping Q&A podcast because he wants to support it. And it's a great way for you to support the podcast and to take care of yourself. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a topic you'd like to have us cover in the future, please let me know. Just go to tappingqanda.com, click on the contact link. If you have the app, there's a contact section in there where you can send me an email or you can leave me a voicemail. Or if you're on the website, just click on the contact link up above. You can find past episodes of the podcast in iTunes, in Stitcher, in TuneIn, in iHeartRadio. We are still the #1 EFT podcast in the Google Music Play Store because we're still the only one there, but we are #1, closing out the year on top. I appreciate the support. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review. It makes it easier for other people to find us. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Monterastelli. I hope you have a great day, a great end of 2016, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Monterastelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Monterastelli or Tapping Q&A.